Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again for the Light Wellness Experience Workshop. We are on day 5, and I am so happy that so many of you have been following along. We've gotten great questions and feedback about the workbook and wanting to make sure that you're filling it out. And more power to you, because the more you know and the more you can invest in understanding this, the better off your health and wellness is going to be, right? But remember, have so much patience with yourself, with your body, with this process, because everybody is different. Everybody has unique physiology, unique genetics, unique behavioral markers, and all of that goes into having or achieving the best results for your lifestyle under light. So, today we have something very special and someone very special joining our conversation. As you know, Light Vitality Group's goal is to be a collaborative platform for light wellness support in bridging all of the interdisciplinary trades and individuals who are working towards making light wellness and circadian health realized and light's impact on it effective. So we are going to have Robert Soler, the Vice President of Research for BIOS Lighting, join us today. He is an advisor on the Well Building Institute panel. He has incredible background in work developing human-centric lighting systems, and I will let him do his justice on discussing all of his background. And with no further ado, please welcome Mr. Robert Soler.
Hello, thanks for having me here. So how did these things usually start? Do I just start talking, or is it back and forth?
No, yeah, we definitely back and forth eventually. So Robert is going to be sharing a bit of a presentation. Again, remember, we have been talking so much about sleep health. So just to give you a little background, Robert, because you're joining us for the first time, the first 4 days of this workshop have been about educating specifically on first circadian health, second on light and its impact on circadian health, and really defining certain metrics and application methods around it. And then fourth, looking at wellness return on investment, or more specifically, the value of investment, and transitioning that conversation from financial indicators to health risk and productivity and clinical indicators and things of that nature. I've been kind of dropping little drips of, oh yeah, Robert will be discussing this and that with you. And I know that based on other presentations that I've seen with you, it definitely fuses in. And we've talked a little bit about it as well. So yeah, feel free to go ahead and get started however you want. They're excited for you.
All right, fair enough. So I do have, it's not as loose as it sounds. I do have prepared slides for this particular talk. I don't know if anyone knows me in this audience, but anyone who does know me is that I can't even talk without like a whiteboard or some sort of PowerPoint presentation. I'm a very visual person, so I feel like it's important to make sure that you guys, for you guys understanding me, that there has to be visuals. So this is just how I roll.
100%. I get it. That's why we provided the workbook for them too, because there was absolutely no way to have this conversation without any kind of visuals or graphics. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Let's share your screen though. Let's get it up.
Let's see, we got there. And
all right, here we go.
And you got it. You got the right one, right?
Yes. And I'm actually going to go ahead and turn that off. There we go.
All right, so this is just kind of an overview of circadian rhythms and its interaction with light. I do start off with a little bit of my expertise and experience and kind of the why I think I'm qualified to give you some of this information. I was the subject matter expert for NASA. I started out my career at NASA, and I was the subject matter expert for the circadian lighting system on International Space Station. And so this is an environment where, circadian rhythms is our 24-hour cycle. And this is an environment where we see you orbit the Earth every 90 minutes. And so you see a sunrise every 90 minutes. And so what happens from our physiology is we don't know how to handle 90-minute information. So we actually start kind of breaking off, and we start relying on our free running clock, which is not 24 hours. It's something actually a little bit longer. It's 24.2 hours on average. But what happens is maybe mine is 24.1 hours and Regina's is 24.2 hours and someone who's watching is 24.3 hours. And so that is like a 6-minute difference, right? But that process continues to go on. So on day 1, it's 6 minutes. On day 10, it's 60 minutes. On day 100, it's 600 minutes. So before you know it, we start branching out. And now it's, the middle of my day, the middle of Regina's night. And if we're trying to work together on something, I might be ready to go and she might be ready to go to bed. And so what we did on this project was creating a lighting system using what we understood about circadian physiology to create a 24-hour cycle using spectrum and intensity of light to make sure that I had something to synchronize to, a 24-hour signal that I could synchronize to, that Regina could synchronize to. And then so we are in sync with one another. So the team cohesion starts becoming more valuable. And so the studies are going on this project right now. They're showing significant improvements in sleep on astronauts where I think it used to be 75% of all meds on International Space Station were sleep meds. The lighting has completely changed that and they're seeing dramatic improvements because of it. So that was kind of how I started my career and how I got involved into circadian lighting. Subsequently, I did jet lag mitigation for the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Olympic ski and snowboard team, and an advisor to the Well Building Standard. I got a National Science Fellowship from the NASA Science Foundation for circadian lighting paradigms. I did shift work grant. I got a grant on shift work from the Department of Energy, from the Department of Defense, and we're working with National Institute of Health on establishing the thresholds of how much of this light you need to promote health and wellness on a day-to-day basis. We've done some things in hospitals here at UC San Diego. BIOS is currently the standard at Mayo Clinic. We're working on NICU lighting with Cincinnati Children's Hospital. So we're dedicated to creating something. I mean, we are in depth into all the science and trying to prove this stuff out, trying to show things that actually work, not just things that are, hearsay or not really proven in science. So that's kind of who I am and where I've been. And I'm going to talk to you about circadian rhythms. So circadian rhythms is a real thing. In 2017, the Nobel Prize was awarded to the physiologist who discovered the mechanisms of circadian rhythms. And circadian rhythms is a pervasive part of all biology. It's not just humans, it's not just sleep and wake behavior, but everything outside these walls has a circadian rhythm and operates in accordance to a circadian rhythm. Plants will change their chemical composition to be more attractive to pollinators at certain times of the day where their activity is most prevalent. Also to change their chemical composition to be less tasty to predators that want to eat them at certain times of the day according to their activity. So everything kind of rolls according to this clock. All mammals use it for survival, food availability, mating strategies. Everything is geared up towards survival. So it is something that happens holistically throughout our ecology. Now, within every one of us, every cell in our body has its own clock. A study in 2014 showed that 43% of mammalian genetic expression is circadian, meaning we are giant clocks, that our genetic expression is changing at the same time every single day, peak in activity at the same time every day, a lull in activity every single day. So we are giant clocks. And so the reason why we have this is strategic timing for resource efficiency. So when you think about it, we're producing hormones at a time that we're most likely going to use that hormone. There's no point in creating this hormone at a time that we're not going to use it, because that would be a waste of our biological resources. So we do it in accordance to a clock. And it's important to think about that, because we are very complicated creatures. And in order to do all the amazing things that we're capable of doing, there has to be organization of our biology to make us do all these things. And so light's role in all this is predicated on the fact that the newly discovered photoreceptor projects directly to the portion of the brain that drives our circadian rhythms. This demonstrates an evolutionary relationship that we have with the sun. Now, unfortunately, this relationship has been broken by modern society. We built these walls to protect us from the elements, but we protected us from the signaling, the solar signaling as well. And so the problem kind of in a nutshell is this under, let's see, can you see my mouse?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, thank you. All right, so under natural light cycles like this, bright days and dark nights, we go to bed a few hours after the sun goes down, and then we wake up when the sun comes up, right at dawn. But in modern society, where we have dimmer days and brighter nights, we start to create this, this circadian drift. And so this drift is most likely to be towards night owl-isms, but it could go either way. And so the whole point, and I'm gonna share with you what this means and what this feels like on a day-to-day basis. But the whole point of what we're trying to do is bring in brighter days and darker nights into the built environment to try to get closer to this signal, bright days, dark nights, because that's what we're designed to have. So to kind of show you what circadian drift is and how your circadian rhythms work, you have to kind of understand how sleep works and the circadian process. So sleep is a two-process model. The first model is the sleep pressure. So every hour that we're awake, it's like an hourglass. It builds and builds and builds. We have more and more sleep pressure as we are awake. And then we have an opportunity to sleep, and that sleep pressure subsides. We wake up and it starts building up again. So it's all driven by our sleep timing and sleep duration. So how long and when we slept dictates how much sleep pressure you have at this given moment. Now, what keeps us from falling on our face at this time when that sleep pressure is high is the second process, which is called the circadian drive. These are these alerting signals denoted by these upward arrows that combat the downward arrows. And so what I think is really interesting about this is, you know, we just talked about resource efficiency, and you would just think that for every downward arrow that we would have an equal and opposite upward arrow combating that, and we would just be rock stars all day long and then crash out for sleep. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. The circadian drive has a unique profile to it. But within that profile, there are things that you might be able to identify with. And so first, what we see is this inflection point here. And that inflection point is called the afternoon lull. This is the thing that 5-hour energy like totally capitalizes on. It's that groggy feeling you feel after lunch. Food may exacerbate it, but it's absolutely a circadian process. And so we feel a little bit more lethargic at this time. And then after this subsides, then starts what I think is the coolest thing about circadian rhythms, this burst of energy that's called our wake maintenance zone. And so what this is actually an evolutionary process that we've inherited from our ancestors for survival. And if you think about it, before electric lighting, the onset of darkness was a scary time for us. That was the time that we went from being predator to being prey. And so it's really important at that time, at the end of the day, to get our stuff done, go find safety, and survive the night to make it to the next day. And so what we find is that we actually have in every one of us this burst of energy. And it's not just physiological energy, it's neurobiological energy too. We're actually smarter and more creative at this time. It's all designed for survival, to get our stuff done, go find safety, survive the night, and make it to the next day. Then after this wake maintenance zone is over, then starts something that you may have heard of. This is called the opening of the sleep gate. This is when a hormone, melatonin, is produced. What happens at this time is our heart rate starts slowing down, our muscles start relaxing, our immune system starts boosting up, our metabolism just shuts off completely because it wants to hold the resources that it has for that fasting period until it wakes up for the next day. And so these alerting signals go down, 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 allowing us to sleep this amount of time, and then it picks back up again with something called our cortisol awakening response. And so some of you might know this. If you wake up at the same time every day without an alarm clock, it's that cortisol that wakes you up. And what this is designed to do is it's designed to get you out of this sleep phase. So the reason we could sleep for so long is something called sleep inertia. It's a propensity to want to stay asleep. And to give you an example of what that feels like, that's like when you go down for a nap and you wake up feeling worse than when you went down for that nap. There's this sleep inertia that's going on and saying, hey, look, I still have all this sleep pressure. We need to get rid of that. I need to stay asleep to get rid of this. So it's not time to wake up yet. So this cortisol awakening response is really designed to get you out of bed, get you kind of going again, get your day started. And so now this process is fundamentally different in the fact that it's driven by light timing, not color intensity, but the timing of when light happens. And I'll talk about how to use this as a strategy in a minute. But this is how sleep and wake works for the ideal person. And now what we're starting to understand is that's like none of you guys. We all have these individual differences that we call our chronotype differences. And so chronotype is a fancy sounding word. Chrono, which is like chronology, is our time, and type is just type. So it's our time type, which is broken down to our self-selected preference for bedtime and wake time. And to give you a social example of what this could look like, I pull from an episode of Modern Family. And so in this episode of Modern Family, Cam and Mitch were like, tired of all the restaurant options that were available to them. And they're so excited that this hot new restaurant was opening up down the street. Unfortunately, everyone was excited about this hot new restaurant that was opening up down the street. So getting a reservation was a little bit of a challenge for them. And so Mitch starts, trying to make a reservation. He calls him up and he's talking to Cam and says, oh, well, they could take us at 5:15. Think about 5:15 dinner and what that's like. And Cam says, what are we, 80? Who eats dinner at 5:15? And then he says, or, they could take us at 10:45. Think about 10:45 dinner and what that's like. And he says, well, what are we, 20? Who eats dinner at 10:45? And so what this tells me, this is social validation that age could predict our preferences for some things. But in fact, this age and sex can predict what our preferences are. And so what this is actually data based on over 250,000 data points that characterize what our preferences are, or predicts what our preferences are for both men and women. So males in the solid line, males in the dashed line, females in the solid line. As we age, where high on this y-axis means you're more likely to be a night owl or an evening preferring person, and low on this y-axis means you're more likely to be an early bird or a morning type person. And so what we understand is that once we hit puberty, there's this sharp tendency to become more and more of a night owl, with men exhibiting stronger tendencies than women, both peaking around late teens, early 20s. And then we start becoming earlier and earlier preferring, both at different rates, until about age 60, when men and women finally agree on what the right time of day is. And so this is what our internal clock is telling us. But a lot of times our social requirements don't agree with what these preferences are. And so this misalignment is something called social jet lag. And so social jet lag is like regular jet lag. So Regina's in Florida, I'm in California. If she were to come to California, it would take 3 days roughly to get on California time. She would be kind of out of sorts for the first 3 days. But then on day 3, she'd come to California time, and then she'd fly back, and then she'd be on California time, and it'd take her a couple of days to get back to Florida time. Social jet lag is like you're on Florida time and work is on California time, and you never really get in phase with what's going on. And so the way that this is actually quantified, social jet lag is basically if you have any differences in your sleep timing on when you on when you have something to do the next day versus when you don't have to do something the next day. So when your work days or your school days, you sleep differently than you do on your weekends or the days that you basically have the ability to sleep in as much as you want. If those two things are different, that is the definition of social jet lag. So what I want to do is show you what that looks like. So let's go to the night owl. So, so this is the same model I showed you before, but when you're a night owl, the circadian drive gets shifted later. And that really cool evolutionary process that I talked about before encroaches the time that you should go to sleep, the time you totally know you have to sleep right now, but you're wide awake. You're like, you have all this energy. You can't fall asleep at this time. You just know that you should be asleep because you have to get up early the next day, but you can't. And so from a biological standpoint, what you should do is you should sleep in longer, but Society tells you that you have to get up, show up to work on time. You know, you got meetings, you got class, you got things you have to do. And so society tells you when to wake up. And what time is this? This is literally the time that you hate life. You're not doing anything useful at this time, but you have to do it anyways. And so what you do is you suck it up. This is the common strategy amongst night owls, is to suck it up during the week, deal with it, you know, reach for coffee, Red Bulls, anything to try to get your energy levels up. And so what happens is on the weekdays, you suck it up and you deal with it. And on the weekends, you sleep in, you actually have your normal behavior. So you have a wide variation of sleep timing from your weekdays to your weekends. Well, this has been shown to be a little bit of an issue. At least one study looked at that the higher variance of sleep timing, in other words, how strong this strategy is used, is actually the best predictor of poor academic performance. This should translate to work performance as well. And then I'll show you in a little bit, but light is the synchronization tool. So early morning light could help bring this back, could help push this back to something that's more normal. Well, a study looked at this and showed that morning light on these night owls reduced their night owl tendencies, but also reduced their ADHD symptoms. So now we're starting to see that some of these behavioral outcomes that are more prevalent in today's society are downstream consequences of circadian disruption or the social jet lag. And then I kind of mentioned before, at this time when you're using food to kind of give you the energy to get you going, our metabolism is shut down. And so a study looked at this specifically and concluded that eating closer to your circadian night is associated with significant weight gain. So when you're putting food and stuff into your system and your body's not ready to do anything with it, you're going to gain weight. It's just not prepared to do anything about this. So on the flip side, you have your early birds. And so the rhythm shifts the other way to be earlier. And so for these people, the cortisol awakening response really dictates when they get up. So for these people, it might be 4 in the morning. They know they could totally sleep in till 8 in the morning, but they can't. The house is quiet. They could totally sleep in, but they just can't do it. That cortisol is going and they got to go. And so they know they'll be tired at 10 a.m., but at 4 a.m., they just can't do it. And so what happens here amongst the early birds is at least the most common strategy is this afternoon lull starts looking more and more like a late morning nap. And so first off, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a nap. But when the nap becomes a strategy, the day-to-day strategy and this nap starts getting bigger, but more importantly, this nighttime sleep becomes smaller and smaller. This starts becoming something called sleep fragmentation. And so sleep fragmentation was shown in 2011 to increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. And so why this makes sense is what happens when we sleep is we basically repair our bodies first, and then we repair our mind second. So when you have 2 smaller bouts of sleep, like what we see here, you repair your body, and you have less opportunity to repair your mind. So it leads to these cognitive decrements. But wait, there's more. There are more things associated with circadian disruption that we're learning as we age. So this is basically age here on the x-axis and the disease severity. So circadian disruption as we live our lives could look like irritability, mood swings in babies and children, excessive daytime sleepiness, compromised learning, ADHD, which I mentioned before, even autism spectrum disorder associated with circadian disruption, things like bipolar disorder, depression. You may know some things like seasonal affective disorder, but even things as high as obesities, miscarriages, diabetes, certain types of cancers, and culminating ultimately to Alzheimer's disease. So there's a lot of things, and these things are big things and things that are becoming more prevalent in today's society. And so I am not here to tell you that lighting is going to cure all these things, but I am here to tell you that we are doing ourselves no favors with the lighting environment that we're providing. And in fact, a study showed that 87% of non-shift workers have some form of social jet lag, which means that they have some form of elevated risk of all of these things. And I can't see anyone here, but I usually ask show of hands who would say they have social jet lag based on what I've described here. And usually I get like 87% of people like raising their hands. So it's something that's, I mean, we're staring in the face of an epidemic here. And so I asked the question, you know, why? Why is this happening? Well, when we look at what the signal is and what we have, this is what daylight looks like. This is the Roy G. Biv that comes out, and this is all the colors of the rainbow that are present in daylight. Well, this newly discovered photoreceptor that I mentioned before that drives our circadian rhythms is a sky blue photoreceptor with a peak sensitivity at 490 nanometers. Now, when we look at what common LED spectrum light looks like, one's commonly found in our houses and our offices, you'll see that it has a trough in this 490 nanometer region. So what happens is we're really inside with poor light all the time. And so this is what we're trying to solve here, is trying to go, okay, this is the problem. It's great to get outside, but sometimes it's difficult to get outside on a day-to-day basis. So I want to kind of just walk you through what this all means, and you know, hopefully I've convinced you that we've got a problem, and now I could kind of walk you through how to do something about this. So basically what we find here is that we've got these alerting signals, cortisol awakening response, and our wake maintenance zone that bound our sleep. So if you try sleeping in early, you're going to get, like, if you say, oh, I'm so tired, I'm going to sleep at this time, and you feel sleepy, you might sleep a couple hours, but then this comes in and now you're wide awake and you can't go back to sleep because you've kind of had a little mini nap. So it becomes a problem. So you'll find that you can't fall asleep, maybe because it's in this sleep wake maintenance zone, or you can fall asleep early if you get just before it, but then you'll wake up an hour or two later and then you can't go back to sleep. So this is really problematic for sleep, and you have to kind of think about sleeping and catching up on the circadian clock if you really want to do yourself some justice in sleep behavior. Now, if you try sleeping in, sometimes you'll find one of two outcomes. Either you can't do it because that cortisol is waking you up. This happens to me a lot. Or if you do manage to sleep in past this cortisol awakening response, you feel like your day has been like groggy and lethargic the whole day. You wake up kind of feeling not ready to go. You're just like, oh, and you need, you know, something to get you going. And it's because you passed this region, or cortisol awakening response. So I just wanted to kind of roll that through, and I'll give you some tips of what you should do to try to make sure that these boundaries can be aligned with how you sleep and how you wake up so that you could actually do something about it. So early morning light shifts you earlier. So light before you expect to see it will shift you earlier. And so that's actually important for proper maintenance. You should have early morning light anyways, because as I mentioned before, our natural rhythm is 24.2 hours. So it's a little bit longer than 24 hours. So getting bright morning light kind of helps make sure that you're always tied to the start of the day. It helps start your rhythm and kind of kickstarts that whole thing. Now, evening light will push you later. So that's what the majority of us get, is too much evening light, and that's pushing us to be more and more night owls. If you have dim light or irregular light, that will actually suppress your rhythm. So I don't know if you kind of noticed it, but these arrows are now shorter than what they were. And so that creates more social jet lag. This creates more ability to shift. These alerting signals, when they're depressed, that means you're more likely to be sleepy. You're more likely to be lethargic. You're not taking the advantage of the circadian processes that you have. And if you have bright, regular light, like this light bulb's bigger and brighter, you'll see that these arrows get more pronounced, and you actually have more energy and more ability to combat that sleep pressure. And you'll get harder sleeps, you'll get more REM sleep, you'll get more deep sleep. So it's really important to get that day-to-day bright light that's regular. It's always at the same time. It's not shifting you, it's not pushing you, pulling you. It's always keeping your anchor. And so your rhythms are robust and they're strong. And so I wasn't sure if so what we've done is we've actually created some technologies. I didn't want to make this too much of a marketing plug, but oftentimes when I give this presentation, the main thing that people are saying, well, is what can I do about this? If all LED light is terrible, well, we've been leaders in this, and we've been kind of fighting for solutions. And so what we've done is we actually created a spectrum of light that looks the same as every other light, but has this peak in the sky blue region, specifically designed to satisfy this kind of sky blue seeking need that we have, that we are sky blue seeking creatures. And we've done some things to make it in like easy to use ways, where you could kind of have a light bulb, and as you dim it down, it kind of pulls out all that sky blue. Let me play that again. So it goes from that kind of daytime spectrum. As you dim it down, it goes to this very blue, null, yellow, or amber. So from full day to night. And we've kind of created something, let's see, can I get out of here? That kind of does everything in one. So it tries to bring the balance of what's going on outside. What we'll notice is that light outside isn't one color. It's a combination of blues and warms, this gradient of blues to whites and yellows. And so we've actually created a tabletop desk lamp that has that gradient, provides everything, works on an app, and does it according to your rhythm, to basically give you everything you need, designed to sit at a desk to provide that window light and give you the kind of the prescription of light that you need on a day-to-day basis. And I guess with that, those are just some things that I kind of wanted to throw out there without taking too much more of your time. That is what I got to say. So thanks for your attention, and then I will be taking some questions. Let me see how I stop sharing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so, so much. Yeah, you touched on so many areas that we really wanted to be enhanced throughout this workshop experience. So that was perfect. I was going through my list. I remember I sent you that email this morning. I was like, these are the things we've been discussing. And in your presentation, it was like one by one, you were literally checking it off in sequence. So that was awesome, awesome. For everyone who is joining us today, and for everyone who plans on joining us later or is joining us inside the recording, if this is later and you're watching the recording of this, please still feel compelled to drop comments, ask questions. We'll get those questions answered. And then near the end of this, we are going to, continue to do a little Q&A period. But, I did just want to mention, you brought up a lot of really interesting points about sleep chronotypes and phase shifting and being able to really start to redefine what your sleep cycle is through applying very strategic lighting strategies or lighting solutions. One of the things that has stood out to me over the course of, I want to say, the last 6 months is, well, yes, that graphic with all of the different primary and secondary types of disorders and kind of major illnesses that are tied to sleep disruption. One of the ones that's really become a very prominent area of discussion has been bipolar disorder. That not only is it just, like you said, it's not just using the right kind of morning light, but that because their sleep pressures and their actual cortisol spike is happening a bit later in the morning, right? So they have this lag in the morning. They are prescribing something called dark light therapy and extended bed rest, which essentially is just keep the morning light out in the morning and stay in bed a little bit longer, so that you can get it. Would you mind speaking to that a little bit? Because I know that there's a number number of individuals who are joining us and who I have worked with in the past and spoken to in the past, who this is a really huge concern. And especially right now throughout the pandemic, the spike in mental health disorder
Right.
in the younger age groups has become so dominant that I think that everyone would really appreciate that insight, because up until now, bipolar disorder has always just kind of seemed psychological and intangible. And, how do we battle this? Where is it coming from? Oh my God, I'm crazy. And, just to reassure everyone that you're not, that this is your physiology and there's something that you can do about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my understanding on bipolar disorder, and I'm not well read on the research, is that a lot of the flare-ups happen in spring and fall when the days are going from short to long and long to short. So that seasonal change is where things start happening most. And interestingly, my sister suffers from bipolar disorder, so I have a little bit of anecdotal data that I've done just from kind of working with her. We've kind of tried blue blocking glasses during the daytime has kind of helped with the manic part of bipolar disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And then bright light therapy has helped with the depressive portion of bipolar disorder. So I think that there are ways to kind of manage. There's nothing that's going to cure it, but there are ways to manage the manic and depressive states of bipolar disorder. And again, this is the N of one, but the data certainly supports this conclusion. So I actually would say, for those of you who are suffering from this, I would say that so get some blue blocking sunglasses. They don't have to be super tailored. I always get, I have, when I did jet lag, actually I have some right here. When I did the jet lag mitigation for the Los Angeles Dodgers, we got some of these, and I think that they were like $4 on Amazon. So they just need to have an amber tint to them. And it was a Uvex, I think, glass. And they work great. I gave those to my sister, and it's as she says it, she could kind of feel a switch kind of turn off, and it could dial down the manic component there.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm sure that plenty of people are going to be asking this question, so I just want to get in front of it. The blue filtering glasses, you said UV, or you said UVX glass. Now, does the type of glass specifically matter, or if someone just wears regular dark sunglasses, is that going to be supportive as well, or do they have to invest in a specific type of sunglass?
So Uvex it's a brand. It's not a type of glass. It's
okay.
So they make safety glasses, and some of them are amber, some of them are yellow. So the color really, so anything that's yellow or amber or red is going to filter out all the blue.
Yeah, deplete that blue spectrum.
So my experience is that, like these glasses right here that I'm going to put on for you, they make everything kind of feel brighter, so you don't feel like you're in the dark per se. So this is kind of a nice compromise. If you get, red glasses, it'll make them feel darker. If you get dark glasses, it'll make it feel like really dark. But this is just filtering out the blue side of it, so you don't have to compromise vision. And you could watch your TV shows. You could do stuff at night, and it's actually been proven to be very effective.
Awesome. One final point that I want to say on this is that, coming out of the University of Pittsburgh, their neurology department has been doing just mass studies on this. They've created something called the social rhythm calendar, which after Robert parts from us, we'll be discussing that a little bit more in depth because of the Light Wellness Master's program. But one of the things that they found was the sleep chronotype, right, for individuals with bipolar disorder, that, upwards of around 80% of the patients that they have studied in these clinical studies have an owl sleep chronotype. So it is somewhat directly tied to that late night, or to that, or, falling asleep later and waking up later. So again, it's all very specific. There are measures that can be taken and ways that you can support yourself and be supported. So for any of you who are joining joining us who are working, to alleviate symptoms of bipolar disorder. Please take these tips to heart because, there's something that you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that this was so wonderful. Thank you so, so much. And I appreciate you talking about the light bulb, as I hope most of you have seen so far. Valerie had posted last night an application, a look at my life under light. And near the end of her video, she was showing a warm dim light bulb, which we said was spectrally engineered to support circadian health. That's the BIOS light bulb. That's that spectral distribution chart, or that rainbow curve that we discussed, right, that he showed in his presentation. And those are the light bulbs that you're getting inside of this program. That's a big, reason why we've asked BIOS specifically and Robert to come and share this information so that you can understand that, we're not just floating your boat, that these are real, and people want to make a difference. People like Robert and all of the team members at BIOS Lighting. And so, we just want to make sure that we can get those types of resources to you, because by now I'm sure you see just how critical and how important, taking care of this layer of health truly is, and ensuring that that foundation is as strong as possible to hold up all of the pillars of wellness that could eventually kind of trickle and crumble into other types of illnesses and disorders. So with that said, actually, and just because I know, Robert, you had said earlier, normally when I'm in a crowd, I ask people to raise their hand and see who, is suffering from social jet lag. Who here who's joining us or who will be joining us, do you feel that you're a part of that 87%? Are you suffering from some form, mild, moderate, or severe of social jet lag? Drop it in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling, and just let us know, right? This is what we're here for. We want to be able to support you. We want to connect with you and make sure that you're getting the answers that you need. So with that said, thank you so much, Robert, for joining us. That presentation was absolutely wonderful, and you're right, we needed the visual guides, and
Yeah.
yeah, and you were so articulate and so precise about
Yep.
delivering exactly the kind of message that we need to get about how important sleep health is, and how tied we are to sunlight physiologically. And we couldn't have asked for something better. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank Robert for joining us. Right. So, and yeah, I'll be talking to you soon. Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. Bye. So I hope that all of you enjoyed this presentation with Robert Soler. I was first introduced to BIOS Lighting's work inside a lighting exhibition, and I remember walking by and seeing Robert give a presentation, and he was so animated with his hands and his body language and his verbiage, and I was like, ooh, I want to, work with him in some capacity. I think that he could really get the attention of community members, not just lighting trade professionals, but of community members. And, it's a big reason why we invited him to speak with you today, because he can take so much of this information and, make it down to earth and ground it and make it tangible for you. So I hope that you appreciate everything that was just shared with you. One of the things that I will add, remember, inside the Light Wellness Masters program, we are not just providing you with consultations, we are providing you with resources in order to achieve this lifestyle. You are going to be getting a certain selection of lamps based on what your needs are in that screening period before your program starts. You're going to be getting LED dimmers so that if you don't have a dimmer pre-installed, you have the means to be able to dim and utilize these lamps. You are going to be receiving, so essentially, because it's very difficult to assess spectral properties inside the existing light that you have versus the non-existing light. Again, while remember, color, temperature, and spectrum are not created equal, but it does provide some visual performance value or tonality to that light. So much like you saw in Robert's presentation when he was dimming down down that lamp, we saw that lamp go from a nice crisp white down to a nice amber white spectrum. And so with that in mind, we'll be walking you through how to kind of visually identify the difference on a color swatch card for color temperature, and knowing that you are utilizing sources that are spectrally engineered versus not spectrally engineered. We'll be able to kind of break down those nuances for you inside the program to make sure that your spaces are getting what you need. On top of that, BIOS Lighting is offering something called a circadian audit program. And essentially, they will be able to enter into your space if you're comfortable with allowing individuals inside your space right now during the pandemic, and you know, taking measures, taking readings of the types of quality of your lighted environment to see if you're meeting the requirements for circadian impact or if you're not, and how to best achieve to do that. One of the things that I will say is that for the first 5 individuals who sign up and pay in full for the program, we, Light Vitality Group, is going to be including the Skyview lamp. That was that beautiful decorative table lamp you saw that was nice and rounded and emulates the different types of tonalities of daylight, but more importantly, is spectrally engineered to provide the right type of healthy quality light we need to entrain our circadian rhythms, right? So just so that you know, that is something that we are going to be offering that you are not paying for inside the program. It is on us, and it's just such a wonderful lamp, and we want other people to have access to it as well. So with that said, I hope that you found a lot of value in our Q&A discussion today. Please let us know what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and yeah, I think that this is a good way to wrap it up. Tomorrow, please join us for day 6 of the Light Wellness Experience Workshop. We're going to be speaking to one of our clients that started in kind of the pilot program of the Light Wellness Masters program. And even without all of the resources that we're going to be providing you inside the master's program, with the very little bit that we had a year ago, she's going to talk about the changes that she has seen, the transformation she's experienced, the way her life has been impacted from transitioning to a life of light wellness compared to the way life was before she had transitioned, and just kind of give you more insight and share why she believes that this program is going to be so valuable to everyone, and we hope that you can make it. And with that said, thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow here at noon, just like every day, so that we can keep driving home this important message, keep providing you with education and insight, and always remember, of course, to live lighthearted. Take care. Bye now.